Welcome to the program, everybody. It's the Livin Life and Style Daily Travel Update for April 16th, 2025. How are y'all doing out there? Having a great day? I hope so. It's a Wednesday, right there on that hump day. Hopefully you're having a great day. You got off to a good start and you're ready to start turning the corner and heading towards the weekend, right? Although I don't believe in the whole idea of working for the weekend, man. When you get to a certain age, you realize you shouldn't wish your time away, right? You should enjoy every aspect of it. That's why I don't hate winter. I also don't hate summer. Obviously, spring and fall are my favorites, but I'm a big fan of all of it, all the change, all of the adjustments that you make. You just have to really embrace it, otherwise, you could, I just don't understand why I would choose a bad attitude over something I have no control over, like the weather, right? Or the work week or whatever, man. Like, life's too short. I don't need to be stressing over, oh, how bad the day, I have bad days too, but we don't need to stress over it, right? So saying all of that, bringing all of that up, because my first two stories are really kind of meh, not the best of news. One has to do with a serious decline in tourism into the United States tourism, people coming to the country to to vacation here, that sort of tourism. It is facing serious declines as we move into 2025. Also, issues with the value of your money and exchange rates around the world. We'll get into that a little bit too, because a lot of what's been going on around the world here in the first 3.5 months of the year has had a lot of effects on all sorts of different aspects of our lives. So, and we're just going to take a look at how it's affecting travel. We've had Norwegian cruise lines in the news quite a bit lately. We talked about them leasing out some of their ships. We talked about them introducing the new what was it yesterday? The Norwegian Aqua. I think it's one of their Prima class ships. Whatever. I'm not a Norwegian expert, but anyways, we're going to be talking about they are going to be removing over 5,000 berths from their fleet by 2027. Now, obviously, as we talked about, they just added a new ship as well, and they have more on the way. So I'm sure they've got all the math done, but we're going to dive into that a little bit. And then Royal Caribbean. Royal Caribbean is making some changes that's going to make non-smokers happy, but may disappoint comedy fans. So we will touch on that as well. So back to the top of the list. I prefer to start with the less good news, or always also known as the bad news, first, and then we'll move to the better news as we move along. So this is from thetravel.com. U.S. tourism collapsing under global trade tensions as international travel to America drops sharply. This article from Margarita Marullo, it was put out just 5 hours ago. So this is fresh. I think you could almost call it hot off the presses. Of course, that is from a bygone era. I mean, I don't know. Do newspapers even have presses anymore? They had to shut down the one here in Kansas City for the Kansas City Star. So Yeah, who knows? So Margarita writes, the U.S. tourism industry is facing dire uncertainty after global trade tensions continue to escalate between the United States and foreign countries. The once thriving and vibrant travel sector is now collapsing under economic and political strife as international travel to America drops sharply, debilitating the $2.36 trillion business, now estimated to lose a staggering $64 billion in 2025 alone. By the way, that's a huge number. Since the beginning of February, travel industries such as airlines, accommodations, tour operators, travel agencies, and retail businesses have seen a significant decline in the arrival of foreign nationals visiting America for their vacation, starting with Canadians after the current U.S. president announced imposing tariffs on the neighboring country and threatened to annex it as the 51st state. Yeah, I chuckled at it at first, but that's one of those jokes I think they beat to death and probably should have let go a lot earlier. And I don't think they've let it go. It just doesn't come up as often anymore. But they're, ha ha, a funny, and then move on, and get serious about it. I think would probably have been a better tact. But moving on, the U.S. Travel Association quickly warned the U.S. government that the country would face an economic tourism disaster if talks of tariff increases were imposed on Canadian, Mexican, and Chinese goods, impacting Canadian travel to America, resulting in $2.1 billion in loss for the travel industry. I mean, look, people are getting a little nationalist with their feelings, and so be it. At this point in time, even if the United States were to work out some sort of deal on the whole tariff thing with Canada or Mexico or China, the PR's already done, and they're not going to be changing their minds. The people who are actually doing the travel, it's not like the governments are shipping the people over, right? The damage, the PR damage is done, and the only thing that's going to fix that is time. So I have a hard time believing this is going to be worse than the pandemic, though, right? I mean, that just completely shut down the industry almost writ large. Excuse me. International travel to the U.S. decreases significantly after trade wars ignite. Warnings by the U.S. Travel Association back in February were dismissed by those in the White House. The result, Canadians protested visiting America until relations were mended, canceling their pre-booked holiday trips to popular destinations such as Florida, New York, and Texas, and opting to spend their Canadian dollars elsewhere, traveling to Mexico or Europe instead. By April 2nd, additional countries made the list of sweeping tariff changes imposed by the U.S. president, sparking a global divide between once allied countries and the U.S., further fueling current tensions and prompting travel warnings from international countries urging their citizens to reconsider traveling to the United States due to a multitude of intense policy changes regarding foreign nationals and the deterioration of economic and trade relations. Quote, the U.S. travel sector faces a mix of headwinds. 1, negative sentiment. 2, border and immigration policies and uncertainty. 3, reduced competitiveness with a strong dollar. 4, economic slowing in Canada and Mexico. 5, hasty efforts at government efficiency. And now 6, uncertainty on the domestic economy. End quote. This according to Tourism Economics, an Oxford economics company. The ignition of a global trade war sparked a chaotic financial storm, upending stock markets and trade brokerages after the U.S. dollar buckled under the tariff trade wars and economic uncertainty. The U.S. tourism sector is now witnessing a significant and negative shift in its once thriving and booming industry. In a statement from the Tourism Economics latest global service update, quote, President Trump's April 2nd announcement of Liberation Day tariff hikes surpasses the assumptions used in our March 27 release. The announcement reflects an even more aggressive approach to trade policy and international relations, underscoring the potential that the negative impacts on U.S. inbound travel may be worse than anticipated in this update, eclipsing the U.S. downside scenario we released in late February, reflecting a more contentious context for inbound travel and more severe tariff announcements than previously expected, end quote. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, it has huge effects. It has huge effects. All modes of U.S. tourism experiencing frightening impact of global trade tensions. From business travel to group travel, corporate travel, and solo travel, all modes of U.S. tourism are already experiencing the frightening impact of the global trade tensions as foreign nationals opt not to visit the United States and Americans fear traveling abroad or within their own country. I'm not finding that people are afraid of traveling within our own country. I think that's probably an overstatement there. But what I am finding, I mean, I like literally had a lady contact me a few days ago, and she said she wanted to go on a vacation as long as it was in the United States. So I'm pretty sure everybody is just kind of choosing to stay close to home. But it is important that, I mean, economic growth does, it within the country, it ends up being a decision as to where you're just spending your dollars. It's replacement theory. You're not going to spend it doing this. You're going to spend it doing that. Now, if you decide to spend your dollars going on a vacation in the United States as opposed to going to a vacation in Mexico or Canada or somewhere else, then that is an added bonus to the American economy, and it takes away from the other people's economies. On the other hand, if you were going to go in the United States anyway, and then you just chose a different destination, well, you didn't really do anything for the US economy as a whole. It's more just that state versus this state or whatever, right? So and with other people choosing not to come into our country, that they are not bringing outside dollars into our country that way. They're choosing to take their dollars outside to other countries or keep it within their own country. There's no doubt that that the new administration has definitely stirred the pot in a vicious. I shouldn't use the word vicious. Vicious has real negative connotations, but in a vigorous way, right? I mean, it's really stirred up right now. From business travel to group travel, corporate travel, and solo travel, all modes of U.S. Oh, I read that part. Yeah, because we're not afraid of traveling within our own country. I don't find that to be true. Quote, this is going to have multiple rounds of impacts, and we are going to see business travel, group travel, corporate travel decline as a result of it. Stephen A. Carville, a professor of finance at the South Carolina, I'm assuming that's SC. I'm just going to say SC Johnson College of Business at Cornell University. Yeah, so it's not South Carolina because it's at Cornell. Told USA Today, quote, there will be less cross-border travel and less demand for hotel room nights because of that, end quote. That last statement's completely true. If you don't have new people coming in, the current population of travelers within the United States, they're already traveling within the United States for the most part. So you're going to have a lot of unused hotel space. But hey, I mean, for American travelers, that's good news because that's going to drive down the price of hotel rooms. I mean, it is what it is. According to an updated global service travel analysis by Tourism Economics, previous projections back in February have now been revised to reflect, quote, a stark downgrade of inbound international to the U.S., end quote. We now expect a 9.4% decline in international visitor arrivals for 2025, led by a 20.2% decline in visitation from Canada. Yeah, the 51st state joke really pissed them off. I mean, really pissed them off. I can't think of a lead that I've had in the last month from Canada, and I used to get them regularly. So, yeah, that really pissed them off. Once again, make the funny, haha, move on. Maybe even in a private conversation, apologize and say, yeah, it was funny, but I probably shouldn't have said it. That kind of thing. Not a bad idea, but whatever. Here we are. We forecast international visitor spending in the U.S. to decline 5%, a loss of $9 billion in spending this year alone. This loss includes $6.4 billion of decreased spending in destinations plus $2.5 billion of lost transportation spending. In December 2024, the forecast called for an 8.8% growth in international visitation with a 16% increase in visitor spending. In comparison, this updated outlook represents a substantial setback, with the full recovery of international visits to the U.S. pushed out to 2029. Tourism Economics is also predicting a recession in the U.S. within the next 12 months. If the U.S. president keeps the current sweeping tariffs in place, which will not only have a profoundly negative effect on international travel to the U.S., but also U.S. travel to international countries and domestic travel within the country, as Americans hold on tightly to their hard-earned dollars for fear of federal firings, business closures, loss of jobs, fewer available jobs on the horizon, and the rising costs of food, gas, and housing. Okay, there's a lot to unpack there real quick. Well, hold on. Let me go ahead and give the guy this quote here. With weaker job and income growth and greater uncertainty, households and businesses will pull back on travel spending, Tourism Economics said. Tariffs are expected to raise the prices paid by U.S. consumers, having a negative impact on lower income households in particular, and applying further pressure on performance at hotels in lower tier chain sales or scales. End quote. Okay, look. Fear of a recession is not fear of traveling within the United States, as in they're afraid to go from one place to another. Saving their dollars, that is fine. Loss of jobs, fear, that's all good. The rising cost of food and gas and housing, though, the inflation rate is going down. I don't know if they've, this is obviously, this study was done at least a few weeks ago, but at the end of the day, inflation, could be coming down. And all indicators are, with the most recent inflation numbers, that it is coming down. So anyway, at the end of the day, whether you agree or disagree with the actions taken by the current administration, I think it's fair to say that the messaging could have been more delicate, but I get the sense that the people who won the election, they in part won the election because they were gonna be a bull in a china closet, whether we like it or not. I'm not here to talk about that kind of stuff. So I'm just talking about what's actually going on, and I'm serious. The thing with the Canadians, it's true, man. I have stopped getting calls from Canadian clients. So I haven't had any cancellations. But I have stopped getting calls. So for what it's worth. So the next story, also tied directly to all of this same stuff. And this has to do with our dollar as Americans. So here we are. U.S. currency buckles under trade tariff wars. What that means for Americans traveling overseas. So this also from Margarita Marullo, published actually before the one I just read. So it looks like she had a few things to say and had been getting ready to report on this whole economics situation as it relates to the travel industry. So Margarita writes, and like I don't disagree in large part with what she had in the last one. I mean, she's pretty much spot on. I kind of disagree with some of the things she said about Americans, but in the sense of what they're doing domestically. But I mean, all of her points are well founded. All of her points are well founded. So moving on to the currency situation for Americans traveling overseas, Margarita writes, it's that time of year when Americans are making travel plans for the Easter holiday break and even summer vacations. The majority of U.S. citizens focusing on places like Europe, the United Kingdom, the United Kingdom, and even Asia for their holiday destinations. However, volatile tariff trade wars and rising global tensions spawned by the current U.S. president have had a major effect on the tourism industry. The travel industry is now facing a slow, painful death. Calm down. I mean, from which it may never recover. That's a little, in addition to the weakening of the US dollar. I think the slow, painful death from which it may never recover is greatly overstated. Let's just put it that way. Greatly overstated. For Americans traveling overseas this spring and summer, the U.S. currency is at a dangerous low, losing nearly 10% of its value since Inauguration Day. What does that mean for Americans headed to countries across the pond for vacation during the busiest tourist seasons of the year? Unfortunately, it means that when the U.S. travelers attempt to convert their once strong dollar, they will face a significant loss over the exchange rate, particularly in Europe, where the dollar is at a 3-year low against the euro. There's no arguing this. I mean, the dollar's value has gone down significantly. Oh, let me see where it's at. I'm going to look on my charts here. I always pay attention to the currencies and stuff. I used to trade currencies, so I'm always interested. I mean, it's at 113. Where are we at over the last year? Yeah, it's way up there. Dun, 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 dun. They're doing USD to euro. Okay, yeah. Okay, they're doing USD to euro. Mine's doing euro to USD. It's kind of the inverse. But yeah, it's at it over, shoot. It's not near 5-year highs yet, though. But it's definitely broken out to the upside. It's definitely broken. The euro USD is definitely broken out to the upside of the range it had been trading in for all of 2023, all of 2024. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely broken out to the upside. Whew. Interesting. I hadn't paid that much attention to it since I got more busy with my travel business. So, but yeah, it's definitely broken out of that pattern. So 3-year low, yeah, or 3-year high, whichever way you're looking at it. The traditional trading chart is euro to USD. So the euro to USD is 1 USD. The euro to USD is that 1 euro equals $1.13. Yeah, so if you had to buy something for 1 euro, you'd have to give them $1.13. So, U.S. citizens traveling to Europe this summer face economic uncertainty. Whenever travelers head anywhere, Margarita continues. Whenever travelers head anywhere beyond their country for vacation, the first and foremost thing on their minds is cost related to the travel expenses, such as airline tickets, train tickets, public transportation costs, rental cars, accommodations, visitor site fees, restaurants, etc. Travelers also take into consideration how much of that money they can set aside for overseas purchases, such as retail items, souvenirs, and gifts, and will often put enough aside, hoping that they can get a good rate in the currency exchange when purchasing the items. At the time of this publication, the US dollar is still struggling against the mighty euro, which is bad news for Americans traveling to any European country at the moment or possibly even this summer. Since April 9th, which was the date of the US president's tariff ultimatum deadline, stockbrokers, traders, analysts, investors, business owners, and clients have watched in horror as the US dollar has plunged into a currency exchange darkness that has caused panic in the stock market trade world around the globe. Quote, "The damage has been done," said George Saravelos, the head of foreign exchange research at Deutsche Bank. "The market is reassessing the structural attractiveness of the dollar as the world's global reserve currency and is undergoing a process of rapid de-dollarization," end quote. The damage has definitely been done. I don't necessarily know if, I mean, and there's definitely, let's put it this way. I don't think a deep enough dive into what's actually been going into markets is taking place here. There's no doubt it's affecting everything, all over the place. I mean, I know people who, with their jobs and looking at their portfolios, they have freaked out. But at the end of the day, I mean, like for me, for one, I'm like, okay, well, look, we're getting stuff on sale now, guys. That's what this is, and that's perfectly fine because it's not the end of the world. The world will spin on. And as far as rapid de-dollarization, look, man, I'm a Bitcoiner. I'm all for this because where that de-dollarization is going to end up is in Bitcoin and gold and other precious metals, possibly. That's where it's going to end up. So I'm a Bitcoin guy. So I'm okay with this at the end of the day. According to xe.com, today's exchange rate on April 16th is formulated as 1 USD per 87.95 cents of a euro. That's a significant loss for Americans purchasing foreign goods in countries such as Spain, France, Italy, and Germany, to name a few, as they now face more expensive purchases. On the reverse side, the euro is doing well against the US dollar. See, it's at 1.13745 US dollars, which is basically the inverse of this number, basically. So, there's a little arbitrage available in that, but at the end of the day, it's basically the same. It's just inverted. Meaning that if the European citizen is vacationing in America right now, they would get more bang for their buck, so to speak, when making U.S. purchases. However, it should be noted in this that the U.S. dollar and the euro have never been 1-to-1. I mean, they've been close, they've crossed over, but the euro has always traded. Let's see here. Let's go back. In the last year, the euro has been as high as $1.11, maybe even higher here. Almost $1.12, right? It was almost $1.12 for a euro, and that was back in September of 2024, just a few months ago. I mean, I'm not saying it hasn't broke out, because it has. Look, share this tab. Look, here it is. See it right here? This is the high. And that was back in September of just this past year. Now it's at 11375. So yeah, we've lost some, but we haven't, and we've lost a bunch since January. Right? I mean, yeah, it was way better in January. Okay, that's fine. But acting like this is some, you scan this out to the 5-year. Hell, in 2021, we were trading it at $1.21. So I think there is a little bit of freak out going on that is not necessary in this article. Has it affected you? Has it affected your ability? Has it decreased your purchasing power in Europe since January? Yes, it has. Is this in some way like an out of, completely outside the bounds sort of situation? No, it is absolutely not. All right. Moving on, Margarita. Will the US dollar bounce back in time for summer travel? Due to the on again, off again, volatile trade war drifts between the United States and international countries, U.S. citizens traveling overseas this summer are facing economic uncertainty as no one knows if the U.S. dollar will continue to plummet. However, expert opinions see a bleak future in store for the U.S. economy and its currency. Quote, I think Trump's trade views are folly and madness. He is going to harm the U.S. economy and has created a needless crisis, said Mark Sobel, a former top U.S. Treasury official who is now the U.S. chair of the Official Monetary and Financial Institutions Forum, a central banking think tank. My basic thesis is that the dollar will remain the dominant global currency for the foreseeable future as there are not viable alternatives. But I think that Trump, by weakening America's economy and institutional foundations, by not being a trusted partner, is undermining the underpinnings of what has given rise to dollar dominance. His action over the last week will decidedly accelerate the erosion in dollar dominance, as well as give rise to a lot more market volatility globally, end quote. Okay, so that's one side's opinion on how this is going to work out. Do we have another opinion? Because there are other opinions on how this will work out. And it's not so doom and gloom. Now, I'm not telling you which way it's going to end up happening. I'm just saying, calm down. Calm down. The U.S. and its citizens are not only facing a dangerous recession due to the tariff trade war, they are also facing possible civil unrest as the current trade war seesaw continues, leaving many international countries untrusting of the U.S. president's next move, which many have labeled as erratic, and what the economic future has in store for all concerned. Well, like over 100 countries have already opened trade negotiations with the United States, and the president put the pause on the trades that he announced on Liberation Day. So obviously, people are not completely, thinking it's erratic, and they're not, and they're working to solve it. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of fear mongering going on in this article. Quote, there is a worry about how volatile and unpredictable U.S. policy has become, as well as increasing fears that if the high level of tariffs are to stay, the U.S. will head into a recession. Raghuram Rajan, a former governor of the Reserve Bank of India and an ex-chief economist at the International Monetary Fund, said, though, of course, tariff policy seems to be a moving target, end quote. That's precisely the whole thing. Fine. You're part of the Reserve Bank of India and part of the International Monetary Fund. I find neither of your organizations to be good organizations, and I find them to be actually detrimental to all of the middle and lower classes of the world. So, whatever. While the United States economic future and the dollar's worth are dangling perilously near the edge of a cliff, no, they're not. No one can predict the future completely. Time will tell if the US dollar will bounce back and recover from the current trade war tensions. With the summer season drawing nearer each day, Americans making travel plans to overseas destinations will be watching the currency exchange rate and monitoring the rising global tensions on a daily basis with bated breath, hoping the US dollar regains its worth, becoming a solid currency once again. Margarita, the United States dollar is still the base of the entire world economy. It is still a solid currency. I mean, in the sense of global currencies. I mean, none of them are solid because they're all inflationary debt traps, but that's not the point here. There's nowhere else for people to go for their currency. Sorry. Your article is a lot of fear mongering in this one. I agreed with a lot with you on the first one, but the second one here, I just no. It's either a complete lack of understanding of currencies or just a complete attempt to scare the bejesus out of people. It's no more like I said. I showed my chart. I showed my chart. That's what's happened in the last 5 years. We're not even close to 5-year highs. Not even close. So I don't know. We're going to move on to the next story, though, this time. This one is more about Norwegian Cruise Line Holdings. They're removing 5,000 berths from the fleet. We've talked about this, and because I kind of spend a lot of time on the currency one, I'm probably going to buzz through this a little bit since we've touched on it quite a bit. But this one is from Cruise Industry News, and the Norwegian Cruise Lines, it's 5,000 berths that they're going to be removing from service by 2027. 4 ships now to exit the line's trio of brands. We talked about the Seven Seas Navigator and Oceania's Insignia. Well, and also Norwegian Sky and the Norwegian Sun. Those 4 are going away. Yeah. So anyway. So like I said, I was going to speed through this one a little bit here. The 2 Norwegian boats or ships are going to be handed over to Cordelia Cruises in 2026 and 2027, and the Seven Seas Navigator and Insignia are going over to Crescent Seas in 2026 and 2027. And that's where the reduction of roughly 5,200 berths will come from over the next 2 years. However, as we mentioned yesterday with the launch of Norwegian Aqua, pursuing an aggressive new build strategy, the company is set to offset this reduction with the addition of new vessels. All of NCLH's 3 brands are welcoming new ships over the next 3 years, including Oceania, which is taking delivery of new vessels in 2025 and 2027, adding 2,650 berths to its fleet. Regent Seven Seas is also welcoming a new vessel, the Seven Seas Prestige, which is an 850 guest ship, and it's scheduled to enter service next year in 2026. Norwegian Cruise Line is set to take delivery of 2 Prima class ships during the time frame, including the 3,571 guest Norwegian Luna. Holy criminy sakes, that's big. That's in 2026. And the company will also welcome its 5th ship in the Prima series in 2027. This follows the new Norwegian Aqua, which we talked about yesterday, which was delivered by Fincantieri in March. According to CIN data, the 5 new vessels will add more than 10,000 berths to the Norwegian Cruise Line Holdings fleet. So obviously, they're not reducing the size of their fleet or their capacity for visitors. All right, I've got the business roundtable coming up at the top of the hour, so I got to hustle through this one as well. Royal Caribbean gets rid of its comedy club on one of its ships and adds a new casino that non-smokers are going to love. This is by Matt Hochberg on RoyalCaribbeanblog.com. Royal Caribbean is adding another casino on its newest ship in an unusual place, while also getting rid of its comedy club. There's only so much room on a cruise ship, right? Utopia of the Seas is the newest ship in the fleet, having just launched in summer of 2024. But a few venues are being swapped around in the name of getting more gambling room for non-smoking cruise passengers. The ship is conducting in-service work, which means the ship is still sailing, but there will be a few weeks of construction while the work is completed. When the work is done, the non-smoking casino will be getting bigger on Utopia, as the attic will become a non-smoking casino. Interesting. I didn't get to the attic in when we were on Harmony. I don't know if they have the attic on Harmony, but they're similar ships. So anyway, currently the attic is the combination comedy club and nightclub on board. Comedy shows will be moved permanently to the Royal Theater instead of having a more intimate club feel. Also being impacted is the Crown Lounge, which is the dedicated area for Crown and Anchor Society members that are at least diamond level or above. The Crown Lounge will move to Deck 16 to replace the Teen Club. The Teen Club will be renovated and become smaller. The Crown Lounge will not close during renovation. Well, if the teen club gets smaller, man, I don't know what they're going to do, because when I was on Harmony, the teen club was pouring out into the halls and down the stairs. Construction begins this week, and the expected schedule of work should result in the Attic Casino will be open by May 9th, the Crown Lounge and existing casino to open May 30th through June 2nd. The same changes coming to Wonder of the Seas. Royal Caribbean is going to make the same changes to sister ship Wonder of the Seas. Utopia's work will begin immediately, but Royal Caribbean will wait for Wonder of the Seas to convert, I think they missed an N here, to convert over the Crown Lounge and the Attic until the ship starts offering short weekend cruises later this year. Okay. That makes sense. Wonder of the Seas will begin offering short cruises on September 1st, 2025. The ship will move to Miami and offer short 3 and 4 night cruises just like Utopia. The shift in itineraries is a move to dominate the short cruise market and attract new customers with the very best entry level ships. No other ships have been announced for getting this change yet. Adding more casino space for non-smokers. Adding more non-smoking casino space has become a recent trend for Royal Caribbean. It's all started with Wonder of the Seas when she first debuted. The ship had been originally scheduled to begin offering cruises in China, but the cruise industry shutdown of 2020 halted those plans. Because the ship was designed with an Asian audience in mind, it had a casino instead of a traditional jazz on four club. But Royal Caribbean decided to keep it as a non-smoking casino as a kind of experiment. Shortly thereafter, all Jazz on 4 clubs were converted to non-smoking casinos, and the Jazz Entertainment was relocated to Central Park, which it's very pleasant in Central Park. That jazz, the jazz music in Central Park on the Oasis class ships, very nice. Most recently, the Vintages bar on Freedom of the Seas was converted over to a non-smoking casino. No more comedy club. While non-smokers will revel in additional space to gamble, it comes at the expense of a comedy venue. Comedy shows will continue on the ship, but in a significantly larger venue where it can be argued the connection to the audience is lessened given how much bigger the theater is. Many comics rely on crowd work, which is where they interact with audience members and play off their responses. In a large theater, that would have an impact. Of course, there are comedy shows held in the Royal Theater on select nights of a cruise, so it's not as if it's never been done. So, addressing a need in the casino. Adding more non-smoking gambling space is a need Royal Caribbean has heard from its members for many years. Smoking is allowed in the main casino with the caveat that smokers must actively be playing. Royal Caribbean International President and CEO Michael Bailey spoke on the subject at an event in 2022, admitting smoking in the casino is a bit of a conundrum. End quote. I guess it wasn't the end of the quote. He continues, the dilemma is that there are many people who do want to smoke in the casino. I know that's not a popular response, but it is the truth. I'm not judging anyone or anything, but there's a large group of people who do want to smoke in the casino. End quote. While there's a non-smoking side to the casino, the odor of the smoke still travels. By adding more non-casino space or non-smoking casino space, it's a demonstration to its passengers that they want to cater to the needs of gamblers who don't want to be around smoking. Hey, honestly, I'm all for it. I think both should be available. I'm not like one of those people who wants to go ban all smoking in all restaurants all around your town, but I do appreciate the fact that I have places I can go that are non-smoking, so I don't have to be around it. I mean, I even used to smoke, but I'm not, I don't anymore. I got a little, I decided I wanted to see my kids graduate, get married, have grandbabies, and I didn't really want to be doing that with hacking up my lung and dying early, right? So I made a decision, and now that I'm not a smoker, I'm perfectly capable of handling it. Like some smokers are just like, man, I quit smoking and I can't be around it anymore. Well, my wife's that way. That's fine. It makes her sick and everything else. I completely get it, and so we choose not to be around smoking. But I don't have that problem, so I don't mind. But at the same time, I appreciate being able to go to a place where my clothes don't come out smelling like smoke after I've visited them. So Anyway, and so I appreciate that they're making more non-smoking casino space, even though I don't even play in casinos. But I think it's a smart play by them. But I am going to feel bad about the loss of the comedy club, because I do like the more intimate comedy club space type of thing. It's just more fun, in my opinion. I mean, like, if you're going to be in the big Royal Theater it almost needs to be like um, like an HBO comedy special type of thing. George Foreman at George Carlin at Carnegie Hall type of thing. Anyway, I don't know. I probably don't know what I'm talking about, but I Royal Caribbean is always doing their best to keep their passengers very happy. I would also like to thank Margarita Marullo for both of her articles. They really got me to talking today. You're kind of talking on topics that I am familiar with and that I like to discuss on the side other than travel. So thank you for that. And all right, I got to wrap this up because I got to get the business roundtable set up and ready to go for 12 o'clock noon. Switch over to that live stream if you like. That would be fantastic. We'd love to see you there. My name is Eric Tiemann. This is the Livin Life and Style daily travel update for April 16th, 2025. It's a Wednesday. It's brought to you by Livin Life and Style Travel, a full-service travel agency. They can help you with anything from your business travel to your personal, leisure, and vacation travel. We can also help you with groups or whatever else you may need. So with that, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. We hope to see you soon. Hope you come back and visit. Please like, subscribe, share the channel with your friends. Hit the notification button so it lets you know every time I go live, which is Monday through Friday most of the time, unless I have parental obligations I must tend to, which has happened over a couple of Fridays here recently. But other than that, I will be here Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. with your daily travel update. My name's Eric Tiemann. Have a great day. Be good, everybody.